Hello everybody, I have a couple of marble filaments to show you today. The first one here is from a company called Eryone, and I think they're best known for how well their rolls are spooled and also how well their filament prints. This is not a very good example of how well it's spooled because this has been on and off my printer quite a few times. But I do have an example of how it looks fresh out of the package. Now, that being said, I did have some problems printing this filament, and the problems that exist in the marble stuff also existed in their regular PLA stuff. But I'll talk about how I was able to fix that a little bit later. Set these guys off to the side, and we'll talk about the second roll of filament, or the second marble color that I was playing around with. And this one's from Geetech, and I think they're more known for their cheap 3D printers, and I'm kind of thankful because they've actually got some decent filament coming out. I also have tried out their TPU, and that printed pretty well with a little bit of drying involved, but other than that, TPU printed fine. This printed fine. This printed just like any PLA that I've tried in the past. But I'm going to talk about the Geetech stuff first because it was kind of the pretty straightforward filament to print with. I have a temperature tower that I printed, temperature-wise, if I can get it to focus properly. Why do I always have problems with focusing on this thing? Might have too much light or something. But the top one here is 195 instead of 190. It didn't print 190 at all. Oh, there we go. So 195 printed, and there's no strength problems with that. It was a little bit stringy. 200, same thing, pretty strong, stringing. And 205 had some stringing as well. So 210 all the way down, no stringing, all nice and strong. So the next thing I have here is the Pokemon Ditto from Thingiverse. Well, it's from the Pokemon universe, but this file was from Thingiverse. I do have some ridges that you can kind of see here. That's from the printer itself. I have to get some calibration on the feeder and stuff, because I was over extruding right through here. And that's kind of what this looks like. This filament is a little bit glossy, but it's not going to show up too well on here. It's kind of like a semi-gloss, and semi-gloss on a white filament makes it kind of hard to show. The next file that I printed here is a Benchy, and for some reason Slick 3R decided to put this little ridge in it. Printed it on another printer, and then I realized even in the slicer it showed that little ridge. There's not much to really talk about with it. It didn't have any real issues to speak of. Now I did print a color card, or one of these filament card things, to kind of show off what it looks like, because the specs are really hard to show on a shape like that. And that focused perfectly. So this is kind of what it looks like. It is a little bit of a lighter color, because it kind of auto white balanced on me there. So what you see here is a little bit lighter color wise, so like the base filament is kind of like a white filament with these dark colored specks. And goes through this, there's no like clumps of colors or anything, it's not blotchy. So it seems like they mix up the specs pretty well. Now let's talk about the Eryone filament. Let me pull up some of my notes on that. Now I did print a temp tower, kind of a matter of fact type of thing to give me some insight on what the temps will look like. So 190 was kind of crunchy. You can kind of hear it there. Didn't print very well at 190. 195 kind of same thing. And at 200 is when it started printing quite nicely. Now, everything showed up as stringy all the way to 230, all the way up to the top. So that's how that's printed right out of the box. Well, not really right out of the box. This is later on. The Eryone support told me to print a temperature tower just to see if I could at least print that. Now, during this time when I was doing all of this testing, I could not get anything to print properly. It would print, let's see here. I think this side will show it the best if I can get it to focus. So as you can see, it prints perfectly fine, misses a layer or two, and then starts printing perfectly fine. And this would happen on both of my printers. It would print on the ANET with the E3D clone, and it would do it on the Railcore with a real E3D Gold Edition, I think is what it's called. Alright, so that's what it kind of looks like there. And at this point, the whole reason why I got this filament was for there's a event going on in one of the 3 printing groups where you print a Snow Labs penguin, kind of like this guy right here. You had to print this for a competition. So I thought it would look pretty cool in the marble filament. So that's the whole reason why I was trying to get this stuff to print. And I did end up having to jump away from this filament so I can get a good print out of some other filament, so I can at least, put a print in the competition. So I did have to jump away from this. And the filament that I tried using also had similar issues. So I thought I had screwed up my hot end or something with this filament, but turns out that if you put a little bit of oil on a rag and you clamp it on the filament as it goes into the feeder unit, you can actually get it to print properly. And I found that out through printing some other filaments. So that was kind of interesting. So this is one of the prints that I did with the oiling. I've been handling this, so this does look a little darker than this other filament, but beyond that, printed perfectly fine. There's no craziness with this. Well, the craziness was putting oil on it and having it print properly. I didn't try printing another dragon. Once I got this working and some cubes and stuff like that, I printed small first and made sure that worked, because cubes would also do similar things to this. So I printed a couple cubes, got that to work, printed this, that printed perfectly fine, and then I decided to print this. This didn't print as well because I tried to use a little bit higher of a temperature. So as you can tell, down here it kind of got some ridges. Down on his tail it looks kind of, I don't know if you could actually see the tail. Well, down on the tail it's all super melty. You could probably see it a little bit better if I get some shadow. Gotta figure this out here. There we go. Looks a little melty down on the tail. Other than that, it printed perfectly fine. Everything moves. That side's a little chunky, but other than that, everything worked perfectly well. And all because I decided to print with a different type of filament and came across some information to oil it. Now, all these other prints here, these were all printed at 210°C, 60-degree bed. And that seemed to be what it liked the most. Now, like I said earlier, I had to print this temperature tower. Now, this is what it looks like with oiling. Now, it decided to not print the 195 or 190 in this case, and the stringing has gone down quite a bit. It's not completely gone, but it has gone down quite a bit. Now, the 210 degrees line right here, if it'll focus, did have the best bridging out of all of them, and even all the way down to 200 had good layer adhesion. So color wise, let's do a comparison here. Color-wise, since the back of this Ditto printed quite nicely, the Geetech is a little bit of a lighter color, and it doesn't have as many specs as the Eryone filament. The Eryone filament seems to have a lot more variation in the filament color, so it kind of looks more like white noise on the screen here than the Geetech stuff. So I think that's a good focus point right there, and it's kind of what it looks like. This kind of also shows the gloss a little bit more. So this is the top layer. You can see the infill on this one kind of shows through. I didn't do enough top layers, but it shows the glossiness a lot better than this. And this doesn't. This is more of a matte finish. So that's kind of trying to get it to focus properly is the hardest point right here. But that's a comparison between the colors of the Geetech and Eryone. So Eryone is right here, Geetech is right here. So which one would I suggest? After I found the oiling part of it, let me grab a couple of things to play around with. So after I found out the oiling part, both of these print very nicely. I would kind of honestly say just pick one. Now the PLA stuff, the Geetech stuff did print just right out of the box. I had no problems printing it. It printed with my standard settings, so I kind of lean more towards the Geetech. But I do like the Area 1 color a lot better. But yeah, that's kind of where I stand on this. Now, both of these groups do. There are a couple of groups on Facebook, and sometimes they run what is it called, sales. They have like discounts. That's what I was looking for. They have discounts on their filament from time to time. So that might be your tiebreaker if they have a deal going on to buy their filament. It's usually like $10 off, or no, not 10 bucks off. It's like 10% off. So you save a few bucks on it, but not a huge amount, but it does help. And I will have another printer to try the Area 1 filament on. It has a bunch of different extruders on it. It's got what is it called? A Titan extruder from E3D, and it's got the hexagon, so it's just different style of extruders on those printers. So I will have some other things to try. And I'm kind of rambling now, so I should probably wrap it up. So as always, have a very nice day.